Hi, welcome back to In the Groove. I'm Dr. Alicia Acey, and I am here with our guest, Dr. Patrick O'Connor. And Pat O'Connor is a college counselor who's had a private practice. He's also the college counselor at the Roper School in Birmingham, Michigan, and he's on the faculty at Oakland Community College. In addition to that, he has written one of the best college counseling books I've ever read, College is Yours in 600 Words or Less. Right here. And I'd like to introduce you to Dr. Patrick O'Connor.
Hi, Alicia.
Hello. I've known you for a long time, and I know you've been a college counselor for a long time.
Right.
So what I want to know is what made you decide to go ahead and write this book?
Well, I wrote the book about 3 years ago, and I think the primary motive for me was knowing that there were a lot of students out there who had great school counselors, but there were just way too few counselors and way too little time to do effective school counseling. Most public high school counselors in Michigan have about 500 or 600 students on their caseload.
Right.
And you know, you can be the best college counselor or school counselor in the world, but you still don't have time to do everything that needs to be done. So I wrote the book as basically an introduction to the key concepts, the big questions that students have, so that the counselors and the students could then spend more time individualizing that relationship with each other instead of spending time asking, how do I register for the ACT?
Right.
They can actually start talking about what's best for me, what colleges are best for me, what am I good at, where do I want to go, get to the questions where they can really build a future.
And one of the things I love about your book a lot is that it's a really easy read, but I don't mean that in a way that it's a simple read or that it's not full of really great content.
Mm-hmm.
It really is, you know, you've zeroed in on if you had time with a private college counselor, what would you ask? And it's called College is Yours in 600 Words or Less. Why did you pick that?
Well, I really did that for two reasons. First of all, most college essays, for colleges that require essays, usually say to students, okay, we want to know everything about your life as long as you can put it in 500 or 600 words or less, which is, you know, which is a pretty daunting challenge for anybody, but particularly I think for high school students. The second reason why is I really wanted to make it a book that they would come back to. High school students are pretty busy folks, and so the idea is we write 31 essential chapters, everyone talking about a specific part of the process, so that when it comes time for them to come back and think about, well, how do I write a college essay, they don't have to read 20 pages on how to write a 500-word essay.
So each chapter is 600 words or less.
Right. Hits the
and you had to hit the highlights.
Hits the highlights and moves on.
You had to take on the challenge that they have to take on.
Right, and I think that was part of it too. And it also makes it that much more likely that they'll come back to it when they need it over and over again, instead of just reading it once.
Right.
Which is really the whole
or those books that have so much material that it's hard to figure out what's the answer to the question I'm looking for.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it was really designed to be pretty user-friendly, and that's why the small chapters are there.
One of my favorite things about the book is in the introduction section when you first open the book, and it says, college should be, you should choose a college based on your heart, not based on a book.
Right, yeah. I think, you know, you had talked earlier in your introduction when you were talking about stressors and students needing to achieve in our sort of achievement-driven society. Mm-hmm. That really resonated with me, and I think it resonates with the students, because there's this impression that there are 24 great colleges in the United States for everybody, and it's really not about finding the right college, it's about finding the college that's right for you. And so the college selection process, picking a college, even looking at colleges, really begins with an understanding of who you are, what you're interested in, and seeing where you want to go next from high school. And that really requires a lot of self-understanding.
One of my other favorite things is that you talk about trying to find that self-understanding, your 5 questions.
Oh, right, yeah, at the beginning. And I think, you know, a lot of times it's funny because students sort of go past that self-understanding part and just say, well, okay, but how do I fill out the application? And it's like, well, okay, the logistics are important, but if...
But you're wanting them to ask, you know, these are great questions. You know, what are 3 things about my high school I'd like to see at my college? What are some things about my high school I never want to see again? You know, those kind of things, and really zero in on those really
Yeah,
great concepts.
It's really designed for the student to start thinking about who they are and where they will succeed.
And I think that, even with my therapy clients, I think that would be a great exercise, maybe not about their high school, but just, pick
life
your
in general.
yeah,
Right.
pick your word to fill in.
What do you get to
blank.
keep and what do you get to toss? Yeah.
But the truth is, there are some things about colleges that make a difference. Like, some kids I imagine come in and say, I want to go here regardless because my parents went there, because the name of the school is good,
Yeah.
because it's going to open doors for me.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. They're actually.
What if it doesn't fit with who this kid is?
Well, it's funny. I talked to a college rep about 20 years ago who said that the number of students who apply at their college depends on the record of their school's football team. That if the football team has a winning year, more students will apply.
Interesting.
And so when a student comes in and they say, well, I want to go here, the first question I ask is why? And what we really try to look at that point is qualities of a college. What is it about that college that you like? Is it because it's big? Is it because it's small? Is it because there's a specific program that they're interested in? Is it because there are small class sizes so the professors will know you well? What exactly are we looking for here? And then when we can get to a description of qualities in a place, it becomes less about a place and more about finding several places that are going to meet that criteria.
Well, what happens when the kid says, I want a place that's like this? Small, they can fill in the blanks.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I want. This is who I am.
Yeah.
And the parent comes in and says, no, we want you to find this place that fits our criterion.
Yeah.
And we're paying for it.
Right. Yeah. Well, and I do mention that in the book because I think very often students want to just say, well, I'm good to go. I don't need to bring my parents into the process. And I'm like, well, okay, you just tell me who's signing the check and then we'll have this discussion. We'll kind of figure that out from here.
Right.
But a good part of the book also talks about the need for this to be really a family-based process. That it's really not about just the student all by themselves. The two people who know the student best are not the school counselor in the college, it's the parents. And so this really needs to be sort of a team approach.
But parents might also know their kid best, their family best, and know, I would love my kid to go to this private school out of state, here
sure.
and there, but they can't afford it.
Right. Well, and certainly anytime you're talking about college, but particularly in our tight economy, cost is a very big factor. And when I work with students and what we talk about in the book is the need for students to really put together, by the end of their junior year, if they can put together a list of 6 to 8 schools,
Wow.
2 in the state of Michigan, 2 that they can afford pretty much without any financial assistance whatsoever, and then...
Who can afford a school without any financial assistance whatsoever?
Well, it's funny you should mention that, but there are a number of schools.
Just have to ask.
Well, yeah, in this economy in particular, there are a number of students who are looking at options. Well, for example, like community college, where students will live at home for a year or two
And can get a
great
really
scholarship.
good education.
Yep, and get a great education and a good scholarship. I had a student who came to Oakland Community College, where I teach American government, and based on her GPA at OCC, she then got a full ride scholarship to the 4-year college she wanted to go to in the first place. So for her, she saved money by going to OCC, but then of course went on and basically got a full ride to her 4-year institution. So college was significantly less expensive there.
Well, what about these parents that save and save and save,
Mm-hmm.
and they send their kid to college, and the kid comes out and there's no job?
Well, that's...
Is it worth it to still pay the money to go to college?
Well, I think a lot of that's a very individualized question, depending on what the student's real goals are.
I mean, playing devil's advocate, I
Sure.
think that
Well,
that's something that isn't, if you can do it, go for it. But
yeah, well, I can tell you as a parent with a child in college right now, I'm certainly hoping that he has a job when he gets done. But I think part of what you need to keep in mind is we have futurists who are telling us that 80% of the jobs that will exist 5 years from now don't exist today. And so the question becomes...
how do you know what to major in?
Well, see, that's the thing. So then you go back and you say, well, all right, so in my work at OCC, I have a chance to talk to current employers who have developed jobs that didn't exist 10 years ago.
Right.
And I say, well, okay, but what are you looking for in an employee? And they say, communication skills. They need to be able to communicate. They need to manage their time. They need to be able to work well in groups. They need to think critically.
Did they say college degree?
No, not always. But the skills they're talking about are those skills that are clearly defined at a college. Those are the skills that really students hone, regardless of what their major is at a college.
No, I agree.
And that's a big piece of
I've
it.
always said that college is a time that, you know, kids can start to like get away from home in a sort of organized way,
Mm-hmm.
you know, where they're maybe not under their parents' roof, but you know, they've got some expectations. Somebody's looking out
right.
for them.
Yeah.
But I think when parents and families are really struggling at the tune of $50,000+ a year, that's a lot, you know, to gain those skills. But I understand that they're important.
Well, they can be, and I'm glad you mentioned the price tag issue. I encourage parents not to give price too much of a thought. You know, there are private schools, for example. Well, this is why I say that there are private schools, for example, where the price for attendance is listed at $38,000.
Does that include room and board?
Yeah, that's everything.
Okay.
And then you say, well, okay, but what's your average financial aid package for somebody who qualifies for assistance? And they say, well, it's $24,000. Well, okay, so all of a sudden, the $38,000 education is costing you $14,000.
But I think most of us don't understand what financial aid even means. Does that mean that you had to do really well in school or get really good grades in school, really good test scores to get it, or is that just need-based?
Well, it's usually a combination of both. And in the book, we talk about the three basic kinds of ways to pay for college, and that's need-based aid, merit-based aid, and then student loans and work study. And of course, we always encourage our families to be very, very careful about the loan part. But we'll often see at a place that has a high sticker price, where students and parents will be able to find it much more affordable, simply based on merit aid and need-based aid. For a lot of parents, they don't see themselves as needing money for college. But then you sit down and you say, well, okay, could you afford to buy a $38,000 car every year for 4 years in a row? And they say, well, no, I couldn't afford that. I'd need some help. I said, well, that's what college is.
So they don't want to apply for the need-based aid because they don't think they qualify for it.
Right. They just don't know. It's not that they don't want to. It's just that they don't know. So that's part of it, too.
Oh, so there's a lot of really good information, and I have a lot more questions about that, and I know that Barb has a lot of questions about we're going to bring back for the next segment. So please stay with us, and Dr. Patrick O'Connor will be here, and we're going to ask him a lot more of these hardcore questions about college and college admissions.
That'll be great.